I don't like that it has this sticker, especially the permanent ones. I don't like stickers on my books in general, even though it is Oprah, like Oprah's book club sticker, but still, I don't really like them on there. Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to the family. Today we'll be going over 21 books that I want to read in 2021. I've been really debating the last couple of days what kind of videos I should be putting out this month. I know a lot of people are making their best of 2020 lists, so I either had two options. Either make my best of 2020 list go from December 2019 to December of 2020, and then talk about December books that may or may not be my favorites in 2021. But then I would have to wait a whole year. So I'm not going to be putting out any best of 2020 or worst of 2020 books until January of 2021. That way it can go ahead and encompass my entire year. So today we're going to be talking about 21 books that I really want to read in 2021. These books are on here because I either really want to prioritize them. I'm also hoping to highlight some backlisted books that may not be popular right now, or maybe a lot of people are not talking about. As always, I will go ahead and leave down in the description box the timestamps. I am going to try to divide this video into separate genres. I do want to point out that none of these books are fantasy or sci-fi. Since most of my sci-fi and fantasy reading includes series, I'll just go ahead and make a dedicated video for that. And of course, as always, grab your preferred poison and let's get right into it. The books are in no particular order, and I think I'll start off with the short story collections that I want to read in 2021, since there's only two of them on this list. The first one is called 1,000 Beginnings and Endings, and this is edited by Ellen O and Elsie Chapman. Also, look at this beautiful cover. It's amazing. This short story collection includes myths, legends, and retellings from 16 acclaimed authors. These stories themselves are focused on East and South Asian cultures. I personally love legends and myths, and I realized that I've read a lot of classic and Greek literature, but I haven't really explored a lot of Asian folk tales and myths, so I definitely want to explore that a little bit more. I'm also hoping to find writers that I really connect with and then pick up their individual works. The next short story collection that I want to read is Japanese Folk Tales, Classic Stories from Japan's Enchanted Past, and this is the same. It's a collection of stories about Japanese folk tales, and I'm just hoping to find authors that I really like. This collection does include 22 traditional Japanese stories. There's ghouls, goblins, ogres, sea serpents, sea kings. There's also magic birds, demons, dragons, princesses, and it's stories that I've never heard of before. So I'm really excited to get into these two short story collections in 2021. The next two books that I want to read in 2021, I couldn't really put into a larger genre section, so I'll just talk about them individually. The first one is By Any Means Necessary, which is by Candace Montgomery. And By Any Means Necessary, we are following our main character, Tori. He is a first-generation college student trying to navigate his way through college. While in school, he does get a call letting him know that the bee farm that he used to work on with his uncle is being foreclosed, and he has to make a decision about whether to go back and leave school and tend to the bee farm or continue his education. This book really stood out to me because oftentimes a lot of first-generation college students do have to make that tough decision to pursue higher education and help uplift their family out of poverty or stay home and help. And that is a really tough decision to make. So I'm just hoping that this is going to be a great book. I have heard wonderful things about it and I can't wait to get started. The next book that I want to read in 2021 is an oldie but a goodie, I think. And it's The Classic Tale of Dracula by Bram Stoker. I've never read this book and I love Frankenstein. It's one of my favorite books of all time. And I've always meant to get to Dracula just because, again, going back to the origin story, to the source material, I know Frankenstein is completely different from what we get in pop culture. So I'm wondering what Dracula is going to be like. The back does say that it's a horror romance. I haven't read a horror romance yet, so I'm just really excited to just get into this and see if I like it. The The next books that I want to read in 2021 all have some element of magical realism. So they're in our world and there's some magic and it's unexplained. World building isn't really part of it. It just helps to further the plot. The first one of those books is another oldie but a goodie, and it's 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and this is the Spanish edition. I do have an English copy, but Spanish is my first language. I want to get back into it, hone it in, and really master it. I haven't read in Spanish in years. I can't remember the last time I read a book in Spanish, and this one is in Spanish. So, I'm just hoping to get back into reading Spanish. I think this is a beautiful copy, and I don't know what 100 Years of Solitude is about, but we're gonna find out together. Then read Love in the Time of Cholera, and it wasn't his jam. He didn't like it. So I didn't want to start with that one. I'm going to start with this one. The next book on this list is going to be The Black Cathedral by Marcial Gala. I can't remember what this book is about. I just remember that it really stood out to me when I first got it, so I'll just read the blurb. The Stewart family moves to a marginal neighborhood of Cienfuegos, a city on the southern coast of Cuba. Arturo Stewart, a charismatic visionary preacher, discovers soon after arriving that God has given him a mission to build a temple that surpasses any before in Cuba and to make Cienfuegos a new Jerusalem. In a neighborhood that roils with passions and conflicts at the foot of a cathedral that rises higher day by day, there grows a generation marked by violence, cruelty, and extreme selfishness. Unable to escape the shadow of the unfinished cathedral, this generation will carry these traits beyond the borders of the neighborhood, the city, and the country. The Black Cathedral is a darkly comic indictment of modern Cuba, gritty and realistic but laced with magic. It is a portrait of what remains when the dreams of utopia have faded away. It just seems like it's going to be a very deep book that criticizes some of the establishments in Cuba. I'm always looking for books that have a deeper meaning or give some kind of historical background, and I'm sure this one also has a little bit of history in it. And also the book cover really got me, and it's a very small book. The next book on this list is Spirits of the Ordinary, and this is by Kathleen Alcala. I don't really know too much about this book either. What I do remember from it, it's a multi-generational family portrait, and it follows this one family who is trying to practice their Jewish faith in a primarily Catholic or Christian region. It's about being caught between two cultures and about faith and love and the strengths of that on its own. So I just think this is going to be a beautiful book, and it does have fantastical elements. I just don't know what they are. The next book on my list is one that's been on my list for a very long time, and I just need to read it, and this is Blindness by Jose Saramago. It won the Nobel Prize for Literature, so I'm sure it has to be great. I don't know what it's about, so I'll just read the back. A city is hit by an epidemic of white blindness, which spares no one. Authorities confine the blind to an empty mental hospital. But there, the criminal element holds everyone captive, stealing food rations and assaulting women. There is one eyewitness to this nightmare who guides 7 strangers among them to a boy with no mother, a girl with dark glasses, a dog of tears. Through the barren streets, and the procession becomes as uncanny as the surroundings are harrowing. A magnificent parable of loss, disorientation, and vivid evocation of horrors of the 20th century. Blindness is a powerful portrayal of a man's worst appetites and weakness, and man's ultimate accelerating spirit. I have to read it. There's going to be, again, fantastical elements in here, but also horror, mystery. Sort of a pandemic too. Ooh, fun. The last book within my magical realism genre that I want to read in 2021 is The Night Tiger, and this is by Yangzi Chu. This one is really interesting. It's set in a city where there's all of these unexplained deaths that are happening, and at the same time, people are reporting men turning into tigers. We have 2 separate characters that we follow. The first one is Jeline, and she is an apprentice to be a dressmaker. Our other character is Ren, and he made a promise to his dead master to find his finger, and that's all we know. So it sounds really interesting. I really just want to read it and find out what's going on. It just sounds like it's going to be a really good book. The next few books that I want to talk about fall within the horror, mystery, thriller genre, and the first one of those is called Little Monster by Kara Thomas. I believe this is also a YA book, but I'm not entirely sure. In Little Monsters, we follow our main character, Casey. She has recently moved in with her father and her stepmother. I don't know if they tell us if her mother's dead, or we don't know the reason why she moved in with her dad. But at first, everybody's really welcoming and she finds a really great group of friends. And then they start to act weird and they stop inviting her to things. Then at this party, one of those girls dies and everybody starts looking to Casey for information or answers on what's going on. So I think this is a thriller mystery. So it just sounds like a really interesting book, and I feel like it's going to be one of those books where you're at the edge of your seat just wanting to know what happens. So super interested in this. The next book that is on my list is Night Film, and this is by Marisha Pessel. Also, beautiful cover. I don't really remember what this book is about. In this book, I believe we follow a reporter. Yes, reporter Scott McGrath. And Scott is investigating the death of someone named Ashley Cordova. Her death was ruled a suicide, but he thinks that there's more at play here. So as he starts to investigate this, he gets closer to this girl's dad, who I believe is like a cult director. Yeah, so her dad is a cult horror film director, and then he realizes that other dads are connected to him as well. So he's like, something is amiss here. And that's all I know about the story. But again, it just sounds like another thrilling ride with a mystery, and I just can't wait to get to it. The next book that is on my list for 2021 is one that I'm super excited for, and it's Untamed Shore by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I did read Mexican Gothic this year, and I also read Gods of Jade and Shadow, and I really love her as a writer. This came out in 2020, sometime in March, and it was overshadowed by her release of Mexican Gothic. This is her first thriller, I believe, and I'm just super excited to get to it. If it's anything like Mexican Gothic was a gothic horror book. This is a thriller. So I'm hoping this will just have me at the edge of my seat trying to find out what is going on. In this book, I believe we follow our main character, Viridiana. She gets entangled with some American tourists, and then one of them dies or goes missing. And I think people start to wonder if she's involved or something along those lines. I don't really like to know much about thrillers just because I'd rather not be spoiled at all in any way. I'm just super excited to get to this one. The next book that is on my list within the horror mystery thriller genre is Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. This is I don't know what they call it, like a courtroom thriller. There's this experimental center in a submarine where they cure a range of conditions. And when it explodes and it kills 2 people, they want to figure out what happened, who caused it, why did these 2 people die? And I do believe that it happens entirely within the courtroom. I haven't read anything in this sort of vein so far. And so I really want to find out if these kind of books work for me, because if so, I'll need more recommendations. Last book within these genres is Tender as Flesh by Agustina Basterrica. This is a horror novel. I believe that it's set in Argentina. Overall, it is a critique of the Argentinian meat industry. I heard that there's a lot of body horror in this, which is what initially drew me in. There's also cannibalism, and in this book, cannibalism is normal. It's normalized. It's what happens in this book. So already it's kind of a weird out there book. I love weird books. They're my jam. I love weird books, so I'm hoping that this lives up to that expectation. And if not, at least to like the body horror element. I'm also really into body horror, so we'll see. This is also my first time reading an Argentinian author. Next books on this list are all within general fiction, and the first of these is Go Tell It to the Mountain by James Baldwin. I haven't read anything by James Baldwin, and that's a tragedy. Like, I can't believe that I've never read anything by James Baldwin. I am an extremely big fan of Toni Morrison, and in one of her interviews where she was talking about Ta-Nehisi Coates, she mentioned that she didn't think there would be anyone who filled or came close to filling James Baldwin's shoes, but she did mention that Ta-Nehisi Coates is this new, refreshing, James Baldwin-esque author. And I realized, wow, I've never picked up anything by James Baldwin, so this is the year that I'm going to fix that. I did pick up Go Tell It to the Mountain. I don't know what it's about, so I'll go ahead and read the synopsis for you. With lyrical precision, psychological directness, resonating symbolic power, and a rage that is once unrelenting and compassionate, Baldwin chronicles a 14-year-old boy's discovery one Saturday in March 1935 of the terms of his identity as the stepson of minister of a storefront Pentecostal church in Harlem. Baldwin's rendering of his protagonist's spiritual, sexual, and moral struggle of self-invention opened new possibilities in the American language and in the way Americans understand themselves. It just sounds like a hard-hitting read, and I'm all here for it. Speaking of Ta-Nehisi Coates, I did read Between the World and Me earlier this year. I absolutely loved it, so I want to explore more of his writing. So I did pick up The Water Dancer. I don't like that it has this sticker, especially the permanent ones. I don't like stickers on my books in general, even though it is Oprah, like Oprah's book club sticker, but still, I don't really like them on there. So that's a bummer. But I did pick up The Water Dancer. Again, I have no idea what it's about. I really like Ta-Nehisi Coates' writing, and I can't wait to really get into this. I think this is going to be another hard-hitting book, but one that's also really important to read, so I can't wait to get started. The next book that is on this list is Antelope Woman, and this is by Louise Erdrich. Again, look at this beautiful cover. This is going to be my first book by her, and again, she's just one of those writers that I'm embarrassed to say I've never read anything by her, so I want to fix that in 2021. I believe this is also a multi-generational story, and it has themes on how history not only impacts but informs our current living situation and everything that is going on. So another important and hard-hitting read, I think, that this will be, and I can't wait to get into all of these. The next book that is on this list is War Trash by Ha Jin. This one, I picked it up a couple of months ago, actually. It's been quite a while, maybe 5 or 6 months since I picked it up, and I still haven't got into it. This is one that I really wanted to pick up, and I still didn't. I really like to learn about US history that is not commonly taught within our high school education. I recently read a book called They Called Us Enemy, and it was about the Japanese internment camps during World War II that happened in America. That is not commonly taught. It's not common knowledge. This is similar. It's a historical fiction novel about the Chinese POW camps that existed during the Korean War. A lot of Chinese Americans were unjustly imprisoned, and this is one of those experiences. I do believe this is still fiction. It's not, I don't think it's a memoir. This one is just really about me being informed and learning more about our history, the good and the bad. The next book that is on this list is White Teeth by Sadie Smith. I believe Sadie Smith is a prominent British author. I think it's British. This is her debut novel, and similar theme to some of the other ones. This is a multi-generational story. That's all I really know about it, and it's all that I really care to know about it too. I just want to go into it and savor it. So the next book on this list is Walking on the Ceiling, and this is by Aiseku Sabas. In Walking on the Ceiling, we follow our main character, Numu. She moved to Paris from Istanbul, and she's trying to remake her life. She's trying to find herself and forget her past. She does end up meeting someone who starts to ask questions, and because of that, she really starts to heal and uncover all of that internalized trauma that she has, that she suffered back in Istanbul. Another thing, sorry, I don't know how, I swear I don't have COVID. I just, yeah, wow, coughing in COVID days. But anyways, another theme among these books, I think this one's really going to be really hard-hitting, and it speaks on generational trauma and personal trauma and healing and finding yourself. I think that's going to be really impactful. The last book on my list of 21 books that I want to read in 2021 is Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. This is actually one that my fiance Ben picked up. I don't think he's read it yet, but it's one that he was really excited about. And at first I was like, yeah, it sounds like a cool story. But then I read the back and I was really intrigued. So I definitely want to make this a priority in 2021 and get to know David Mitchell's writing. So I'll just read the little blurb in the back. Souls across ages like clouds across skies. 6 interlocking lives, one amazing adventure. In a narrative that circles the globe and reaches from the 19th century to post-apocalyptic future, Cloud Atlas erases the boundaries of time, genre, and language to offer an enthralling vision of humanity's will to power and where it will lead us. I think this is the one that I'm most excited about in this list, just because it sounds like it's going to be really character driven and thematically based. It's not really going to have a lot of plot to it, and it's been a while since I've read something like that. So I really just want to get back into more character driven books. So that was it. Those were the 21 books that I want to prioritize in 2021. Of course, I will be reading a lot more besides this, but these are the books that I really want to read. In my next video, I will be talking about the series that I want to start in 2021, or at least those that I want to prioritize. So until next time, cheers, and I hope you all have very happy holidays. Goodbye.